your net worth before I ask my last question. You are worth 341,700,000. Rent only you pocket 13.2 million per year. Maybe you can give us an overview of how you have built this over time.
Most of my money or the net worth is in rental units. When I was working in the US, I invested at home quite heavily because I knew I would come back home. Most of the rental income you see there is our house in the US, but we also have a loan on that house. If you go further down, you'll find out that we owe almost half of what the value of that house is. So most of that money pays the mortgage in the US. So I don't even see that money. It comes out and it pays the mortgage in the US. Now, we get some rents out of because we have rented that house, but not as much as what our mortgage is. Those figures, I converted them into Kenyan shillings. And you know the dollar is so high. It looks like I'm worth so much in Kenya, but that is property in the US.
How have you been able to build it over time to 341 million for the duration you have worked? Okay. I don't know from which.
I started working in 1985, and almost half of my pay I sent home and bought property. Secondly, when my mom passed away, we inherited quite some. And thank her for working very hard for us. But most of that is from my investments, and I've really invested in rental houses quite a bit, Eldoret and Nairobi.
All right, let me come back to my question, Speaker. Now, while serving as Chief Officer for Roads, Infrastructure and Public Works, you've indicated that you provided strategic policy direction for effective service delivery and participated in the formulation of the following policies. 1, machine line policy. 2, taped financing policy. 3, project management policy. 4, roads and public transport policy. Now, what fresh ideas will you spearhead in terms of policy direction in the new department that you have been proposed to? If you have not gotten me, I can repeat, engineer.
Most of those policies, when I left in 2018, were draft policies. I don't know how far they have gone. But when I get to water, there's quite a few things that I've thought of since I was nominated for this water position. One, how do we get water to the people at the lowest cost possible? There will be policies that will generate as we look at how to get water to the people. How do we maintain that water? For example, right now, you have problems with old infrastructure in water, where pipes break every now and then. How do we make sure that we have policies that will help us? Once we put this in place, that we will be able to have water at all times. Cleaning our towns and our neighborhoods, we have to have a policy on that because we can't just work blindly. For example, what do we want the residents or the citizens of Bungoma to do in return to help us clean our environment? So there will be so many things we'll work on to make sure we are at the right place in the next 5 years. I understand we have a water rig in the department. How is that water rig being used? Can we, at the same time as we are drilling water for people, can we also do outside work? Those are some of the things we are going to look at to expand our quantity of water so that our people can enjoy and can have better life, because water is life. I have ideas. I have many ideas. But because we are going to work as a team, we'll sit down and discuss those ideas. The ideas that look good, you are going to see them in this assembly as policy papers, suggestions, bills, whatever it may be. But we are going to be very busy. One, we also want to get more water from Mount Elgon. How do we do that? We are going to look at many avenues of getting more water from Mount Elgon. And there is water. The only thing is we want to use gravity. How do we do that? So we are going to be looking at all those ways and methods, and we have to then put them in policy form so that everybody understands the direction we are taking.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe this nominee should be able to help us understand. One, his training is majorly in issues to do with roads engineering. Now, he has been nominated in the Department of Water. Engineer, now how are you going to behave from a roads engineer to water? Are you comfortable?
I am very comfortable. I'm very, very comfortable. I adapt very easily. I'm very comfortable. I think this is an opportunity for us in Bungoma to shine, because right now, water in Bungoma, we only have about 9% of the population getting water. I want to assure the Bungoma people, my people, that by the time 5 years come, we should be close to 50%. And I have very good ideas. I have very good ideas. I can mention some here, if you can allow me.
You are allowed.
Okay. I would like to see us go the private-public participation way with water. We'll need about 11 dams, small dams, along the Mount Elgon area. And it won't be very expensive, by the way. Whoever will come in to work with us, of course the county has to contribute some. It won't be much. They will really need land, and that's it. The infrastructure can be provided by whoever will invest. Water from Mount Elgon will flow by gravity, and everybody will get water. Along the way from Mount Elgon, all the way down here. We could even reach a point whereby we sell some of this water to Busia and maybe Kakamega. I don't want us to look at it that way, because then it becomes political. Right now, the reason that we are having problems with water in Bungoma is because of the cost of pumping water from River Nzoia. We actually pump twice, and cost of treating that water. Water from Mount Elgon is cleaner, cost of treatment will be lower, and it will flow by gravity. There are people out there who have money. If you can calculate that water can be given to, say, 100 households, somebody will recover their money in less than 20 years and make a profit. What we want is water for our people. I would immediately go that direction. And I can assure this honorable house that if we did that in the next 5 years, people will remember us the rest of the time. That will also help us solve very many other problems that we have, by the way.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Joseph.
Chair, that one's just maybe a long plan, maybe the immediate plans,
Okay.
like in a year.
The immediate plans,
Because we should talk on the short-term and long-term plans.
the immediate plan.
Urgently,
Okay, I'm
as
sorry.
Bungoma people, we need water.
Okay.
So the urgent plans.
There are immediate plans, and we can have immediate plans. In the next 1-2 years, like I said, we have a rig now that will drill water. We'll make sure that in every year that we have one drill borehole per ward. We also have Kifingo that did a lot of work in the 80s and 90s. Some of those boreholes are out there, they have been forgotten. We want to look and see where those boreholes are, and if we can rejuvenate them and start getting water from them. We also want to work very closely with Nzoasco to see if, and in talking to them, there is no money. There's no money because of the cost of pumping water to Bungoma town. But we actually need to invest some money in renovating the piping that we have right now. And that's where most of the money is going. So instead of waiting to repair, we want to lay new pipes, and if we can. So we'll work very closely with Nzoasco. I understand Trans Nzoia is trying to pull out, but again, it will end up being our problem in Bungoma, and we in Bungoma must look for solutions for ourselves. So immediately, we'll have to start looking at what we have. How many boreholes can we drill? How much piping can we repair or install while we work on the big plan? The Koreans have brought water very close here. In fact, 8 kilometers from Sikata. We should also look at that, how we can get that water closer, and if we can bring it to Bungoma, although it will not be enough, we do that. There's another line that is coming from Chwele Way, and we can also look at that. That comes closer to Kibabi University, and we want to also look at that. That will be in the immediate, but for sure, we need to do more to get our people drinking clean water. And I'm sure if we do that, nobody will ever forget us.
Thank you, Chair. But mostly, Chair, most of our CECs normally work based on the issue of towns. But you see in our villages, they concentrate less. So we have our existing water springs. What new ideas will you bring on board to improve on those existing springs?
What I understand with water springs, most of them have been rehabilitated. We need to go back and maintain them. Those ones that were rehabilitated and have been damaged for one way or the other, we'll go back and repair them. But I understand most of those water springs were rehabilitated. But we'll do more.
Thank you, Honorable. Before Grace, I think it's Kirong online. Wait first, Honorable Kirong, then I'll go to Grace.
Thank you, Chair. I want to ask the nominee, how are you going to manage conflicts on water services delivery between Nzoia Water Company Limited and the residents of Chesikak and Terem?
I completely don't know that there is an issue there. But like I said earlier, I'm a team player. I bring people together. Immediately, we'll talk to Nzoasco and also talk to the locals in Chesikaki and see what the problem is. I don't see that we can't resolve the issue or whatever issue is there. I think we will be able to resolve it.
So you are confirming where you sit here, you're not aware of any conflict between the people of Chesikaki and Teremi with the Nzoia Water Company. You're not aware completely.
not specifically aware of the exact
About the
problem.
sharing of water. What happens here, we get water from Chiskaki and Teremi, and the locals don't get any water. Pipes just pass in their land to what now the other area of Milani, Bokoli, Matisi.
I know of that general problem I've had, that we get water from the mountains and the locals don't get water. With Nzoasco, we'll work very closely to make sure that the locals get water. But the solution that I had outlined of doing a PPP, those will be conditions with that solution. That the people who are closer to the source will benefit first before anybody else benefits. So that will be taken care of. The specific issues on the ground, I do not know exactly, but I know that people have complained why water leaves their area and they don't benefit. The extent of that problem, I will work on it pretty much day one.
It's okay, we have a rejoinder from Hondo Pachemion.
Chair, apart from people from Teskaki and Terem not getting water, the amount that is paid to Nzoasco is also another issue. They are charging a lot of money, and I don't know, with the new direction that the CEC is talking about, the private partnership program, the cost of 1 cubic maybe meter of water could go very high. I don't know if the residents will be able to afford. So we have that issue. How are you going to bring other stakeholders on play? Because we have the county government of Bungoma, we have other water bodies, other like WASREP, like Lake Victoria North. Are you going to bring them on board so that we solve this conflict? Because it is a very big problem in those two areas that have been mentioned.
Yes, everybody will be on board, by the way. And there will be concessions. When you write these contracts or agreements, and if, may I just go back on the issue of PPP. If you just calculate using, say, 500 shillings per month that our people will pay down here now in the big towns, Webuye, Bungoma, Kimilili, and whatever. At 500 shillings per month, the companies or the investor should be able to recover their money within 11 to 12 years and start making a profit. And most of these PPPs are written for 25 years. So because they will recover their money much faster, you can write in the agreement that the people where the source is should pay minimal or nothing. That will be right at the get-go. It is us down here who will continue with the rates we've been paying or even lower, a little bit lower, because now you have cut out the costs of pumping. You have cut out the cost of treatment. Because when you look at water from River Nzoia, it must be treated much more than if you get the water directly from the mountain. So cutting out those costs will allow us to pass the savings to our people. And even more, allow us to give certain people along the way even free water. And I think that is the way to go, to cover the biggest area. And you can see if you have one line coming through, say, Kamkuywa to Webuye, another line coming through Kimilili to Misihu, you know, you are almost covering everybody as you come down the hill. The people who will not benefit from that, those ones will give them now boreholes. And we'll look at other avenues to make sure they get water. And then springs and all that. We'll incorporate all these ways so that we get as many people drinking water as possible. But for me, that is the way to go.
It's okay, Honorable Grace.
Thank you, Chair. Just a rejoinder. Waziri, there is always a disagreement between the Ministry of Water, Roads, and Nzoansko about the affected water pipes during the repairment of roads. Now, how will you handle this, so that it cannot be blame games among the two ministries? And
The right way when you are developing a project, any project, is that you bring all stakeholders on board. I think the mistake we make is you develop a project, you start doing it, you run into a pipe, is when you run to Nzoasco. The way it should be, Nzoasco should get the plans, and they should then point out that you are going to interfere with our infrastructure. What are you going to do? Have you included monies to repair in case? What I'll do is make sure that as we sit in cabinet, the cabinet member from Roads and Public Works should understand that we should be brought on board whenever they have a project. And when they bring us on board water, we'll definitely walk along with Nzoasco because we are partners in this. And I understand that I'll be sitting on the board. That means I'll know what is happening in the county. And with so doing, I think we can cut out some of these disagreements that have been there before and all that stuff.
Says Honorable Vitalis. Grace, you kindly hand over the mic.
Thank you, Chair. Some few years ago, there was a domain in this county about Bumula. The only flagship project that Bumula had was a dump site. And from there, the mother was brought in this particular house, whereby the county assembly approved and recommended that we direct the department to make sure that every sub-county to have its own dump site. Because all this was being dumped in Maunda dump site, which is in Bumula sub-county. How will you ensure every sub-county in this county gets its own dump site?
Thank you very much for that question. We must move towards each sub-county getting its own dump site. Now, there's a cost element related to that. Initially, I think we might divide, or we will divide our county into 3 or 4 regions as we expand to make sure that all the 9 sub-counties have their own dump site. I agree with you that it's so unfair that trash is carried from Tongaren to Bumula. That cost element should allow us to look for a local dump site in Tongaren. So we will start by getting 3 or 4 dump sites and eventually get each sub-county to have its own dump site. It doesn't make sense that my trash in Webuye ends up in Bumula. So we'll make sure that we move that direction. It will also cut the cost. When you look at the truck or lorry that carries this trash, say from Webuye to Bumula, maybe by the time that trash reaches Bumula, half of it has been blown away by wind. So yes, we have carried trash, but we have left most of it on the road. So we have not really done much. We have not really helped our environment as much, because then we have to again send people to clean up that trash. So it just makes sense that trash should be thrown closest to the source where that trash was got. So I'll work very closely. The unfortunate thing is when we look at the budgets don't give us any breathing room to purchase land and to have dump sites in this area. So we have to look at other ways of getting money, and I'm sure with the help
Engineer,
of this House.
from your early explanation, the transport cost of the trash from Tongaren, Webuye, and Elgon Kimili to Mwanda, we have information that basically every month, the county government pays the contractor for transporting that trash 17 million per month. Okay? Now, if you can get even 1 million or 1.5, buy land in Webuye, buy land in Kimili, won't you be saving the transport cost of transporting this trash? Or even Elgon for that purpose?
And yes, Chair, I want to agree with you. Those are some of the things when I get to the office, I have to start looking at them immediately. What savings can we get when we cut down on the transport cost? And can we start establishing dump sites around the county? Yes, I'm going to look at that immediately. I get to the office.
Chair, lastly, I would like, we are hiring you because we know you are bringing in new technical, some new ideas, and technology is changing. What plan do you have to make sure that this wastage in the dump sites can be made into something that we can even have some employment opportunities, people around those dump sites?
The way we have to go, and we need to start educating and letting our people know, is separation of our trash. Making sure that the bottles, the plastic bottles, are not heaped together with other trash that we are going to throw away. Because some of this trash could be used as manure if it's separated. And we need to go that direction of educating people that we should not just throw everything together. It's going to take time because we are used to the easy way of throwing trash in one place. We should also come up with policies where some of our business people buy trash cans so that people can leave their trash there instead of throwing it all over the place and then somebody else coming and picking it up. That can be written in some of the licenses that we give our business people, because it's a cost to pick that trash. If we can convince our business people to have a trash can in front of their business so that people leave their trash there, it will cut down on the amount of trash that we throw out. So separation, recycling will be something that we want to start working on very much.
Thank you. Honorable Muhongo.
Honorable Speaker, my question that I wanted to ask is similar with what my brother has just asked.
Yes, please proceed.
But I'm not really convinced by the nominee because you are being vetted for this position. And you understand so well that the department has been underfunded. Even we have understaffed in the same department. And you are we are vetting you. You will sit on that chair in the cabinet. Tell us, convince us how you will convince the executive, that is the governor now, to put money in the same kitty, because we are also collecting revenue from our big markets. And some of the reasons why they are boycotting now and then is because of this solid management. How are you going to assist us as Waziri? Finally, Honorable Speaker, because I don't want to ask my friend so many questions, I have looked at your DCI clearance certificate. And you know, this was a requirement. I want you to convince this panel, in the absence of the original certificate, what do you want us to do? because it was a requirement. And if you miss one, you know what it means. So I think you need to tell us, as a panel, what to do. Or what assurance are you giving us to support this document? Thank you, Chair.
As you are doing so, engineer, from your file, you know you applied for this job way back on 1st of September when before the governor was sworn in. So you are expecting some employment. While you are very keen to apply early enough, you didn't even have time to apply for your code conduct early enough to have the certificate given to you.
When the governor announced the appointees, I was not in the country at that time. When I came back, I immediately went and took my fingerprints, and I was told it would be 3 weeks. Yes, it's true, I applied for this position very much earlier, or a position in the cabinet, not this particular one, very much earlier. But you know, these positions are very competitive. I didn't want to sound or look like I already have a leg in. So I applied and I waited to see whether I would be the lucky one or I'll be one of the lucky ones. But I can almost assure you that since the last time that I did or went through this exercise, unless in my dreams, I don't think I've done anything that the DCI will find.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Joseph Nyongesa.
You know, the nominee, in his questionnaire, in fact, he said that he was coordinating the campaigns of His Excellency the Governor. Now he's saying during that time he was away outside the country. So were you coordinating while away or coordinating while in Kenya?
No, what happened is we finished the elections and I went to rest. And then I was nominated and I said, thank you, Jesus. I ran back to start doing my paperwork.
But Chair, when he was applying on 2nd of September, was he not aware that he needs to have the requirement? Because he was applying in the Ministry of Roads and Public Works. Were you not aware that these are the requirements that should be needed? Or you applied while you were away?
No, I applied. In fact, I sent in my application before I left, but again, like I said, I didn't want to be overconfident. You are all over the place looking for paperwork and you don't have a job. And then if you don't get, it's worse than waiting until somebody tells you now, I think you might have a job. But I should have thought a little bit ahead, but I didn't want to be overconfident that I was sure. Yes, I helped in the campaigns, but not everybody who helped in the campaigns has been rewarded or has gotten anything.
Even today you are not so sure if maybe will be given.
If you are looking at performance, you have the person here.
No, your fate lies in this committee's hands. Your fate lies with us here. Whether it will be given or not, we'll make that determination ourselves.
I know. I'm sorry about that.
By making proper recommendation, if need be. Honorable Stephen.
Honorable Speaker,
Yes.
the nominee is explaining himself that he didn't want to be overconfident. But in the process of applying for any position in this country, because he's a citizen of Kenya, he knows the requirements before you apply, and you apply, there are requirements that you have to do. Just like when we look here, the chapter 6, why did you get the chapter 6 done, yet you are not confident? Yet you didn't want to exhibit maybe confidence that is over. Yet the other one, you cannot, but the chapter 6 one, you are able to file it here.
Mheshimiwa, some of those clearances were taking a day or two. Some of them are online. The only one, and I was actually surprised, the only one was the DCI one. When I went to take my fingerprints, I was told you have to wait for 3 weeks. I actually thought it would be just as fast as the other ones. I didn't know that it will take that long. But the 3 weeks are almost over. I think in another week or so, I will have gone over the 3 weeks.
Did you read our advertisement inviting you for the waiting?
Yes, yes.
That you call all your original testimonials plus Chapter 6 compliances.
Yes, and I carried everything
Except
that I
the
had.
certificate of good conduct, not a receipt. We are together on that?
Yes.
Yes, Honorable Mutiembu.
Thank you, Chair. Coming the last one, honorable members have exhausted the questions, but I will just try. Then I want the nominee. This department has a number of unfinished projects. I remember I was in the last regime. This is the department whereby honorable members were raising statements, but there were no responses. And you can remember what happened to the former CEC. In that scenario, how will you ensure such projects are completed? Thank you.
One, I'll work very closely with the committee. Very, very closely. Two, I now know the system after having worked as a chief officer. I think I understand what is required. And if there are any promises I've made, I can only promise what I can deliver. If I can't deliver, I will not promise. Maybe, and I don't want to compare myself with the person who was there. He did the best he could. Maybe he did not manage to work very closely with Waishmio. But for me, believe me, that issue will not be there. If I can't, I say I cannot. But I am sure I am up to task. That one I can assure you. People who have worked with me before, understand. I can, I will.
Thank you. Before I allow you, Honorable Seneca, to come in, are you aware that Bungoma, we have so many water dams around it? We have one Makemo Dam, one Namasanda here, one in Sivoti. And they have become death traps for young children, school going, who doing grazing at the swamp areas. Which plans do you have to safeguard those areas from being further death traps for our children?
We just have to look for ways to fence those areas. And some of these dams are what you can call man-made, made by us ourselves. For example, we mine gravel and we leave it open. It becomes a dam and it becomes dangerous to our kids and children. I think we have to work with the leadership, the local leadership, to make sure that we either fence these areas or we look for a good way to keep people away. And more so, for people who dig some of these areas and leave them open, we'll work very closely with the roads department to make sure that when they give out a contract, that there's something in the contract that those areas must be backfilled before they leave. So we have to work together to make sure that we safeguard our children. But the big dams, I think we need to secure them by fencing, because yes, they are dangerous.
It's okay, Honorable Seneca.
Thank you, Chair. Engineer, we have several projects that have been done in our respective wards. And the challenges we are having is management. You find that some of them are being vandalized for political reasons. And this is taxpayers' money. What measures will you put in place to make sure that such projects are protected, they are not vandalized? Because maybe you've put in like 10 million, and someone who is not supporting you, he comes and vandalizes the project. What measures are you going to put in place to protect such projects?
And I can think of some of the things that will be vandalized. For example, meters, water meters. Now I'm talking water. We have to work with our local leaders. Most of them, the village administrators, the ward admins, and even the enforcement. We also want to educate our people because there is no need of enforcing, and people don't understand that some of these items cost our taxes or taxpayers' money. So we need to inform and address and teach our people that they should not vandalize this. But we must also use enforcement. That's where we need to write some laws, because you cannot arrest somebody when you don't have a law that says you should not be doing this. So as we go forward, we need to write laws where they are punitive to some extent. When somebody damages or steals something, they should be punished for that. But I see that we should use our enforcement in many ways, not just use them to give tickets for parking, but they should also help us to protect what we have invested in.
Yes, lastly from Honorable Chemion.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions. Question one, we have very many graduates out there who have trained on water issues. What plan do you have for them? Secondly, we have dwelled very much on water. And this docket comprises of tourism and the environment. Say something about tourism. What plan do you have for tourism in this county?
About our graduates, yes, we have very many people who are qualified. And what we want to do, because I will be in the cabinet, some of these things we need to discuss in the cabinet. It will just not be my ministry that will have to worry about our graduates. But as a county, what do we do about our graduates? I believe what we want to do is have these graduates attached to some of our businesses so that they can learn. If those businesses can agree to give them something small, we won't call it a salary, but an allowance of some sort so that they can learn. And we have very many projects. In water, we will have projects. In roads, we'll have projects. We'll have projects across the board. If every contractor can hire on training purposes 2 or 3 people, we'll go a long way in harnessing some of our graduates and making sure that they learn skills and improve. So I'll go that way. And I'll make sure that all of us work together in the cabinet to make sure that we don't leave our young people behind. As far as tourism, tourism can be very good, can bring a lot of money to us. But most of the sites that we have in the county, we don't even own them. They are either like Chetambe, understand that is not even our site. It belongs to somebody else. So in the first place, we want to make sure that we acquire these sites and we protect them. But more so, we want to work very closely with our hospitality industry to make sure that the hotels that they have higher standards so that as people come from out, they can remember to come back. So in the tourism, I understand there isn't much other than promotions of our sites, and we have to do a good job, but you can't promote what is not yours. So we want to make sure that we acquire these sites so that we can promote them. Then work with other stakeholders to make sure that when visitors come, they are comfortable. Environment, I think we have talked about environment quite a bit, trash picking and all that. But recycling will be one of the solutions to safeguard our environment. Now that you know that the environment has changed quite a bit, the world is warmer and rains don't come on time, and we have to help that. The only way we can do that is by greening. That means planting more trees. I would suggest that as we help our farmers, that we also direct our farmers to plant fruit trees instead of just planting trees, because we can kill two birds with one stone. And right now, most people, in fact, when you look at other counties, Nyandarua, Kirinyaga, and them, they are going more on avocado because it's green gold. So we also want to tell our people that we'll help you through agriculture. As we give them seeds and whatever, we'll actually give them seeds of trees. But they cannot just be any trees. They should be fruit trees. That will help our environment. Hopefully the greening will change this climate issue that we have. And we need to be the leaders too. Because the president was talking about 15 billion trees. And 15 billion trees, when you divide by 47 counties, you have a lot of trees. He could not have mentioned that if he didn't know that there is money coming from somewhere. So we need to place ourselves in the right place as this money comes in from maybe the UN, maybe the European Union.
That is okay. Engineer will have the last question from Honorable Joseph Nyongesa.
Thank you, Chair. You know, we have dwelled a lot on water, but Honorable Chair is that we are having this Mount Elgon Game Park within our county. The section of it is in Trans Nzoia, a section of it is in Bungoma, but mostly the beneficiaries are the people from Trans Nzoia because they have structures, while at least in Bungoma, there are no structures. So in terms of revenue, we are losing it to Trans Nzoia. What plans will you put in place so that at least as Bungoma County, we also benefit from that game park?
We can only benefit from that game park if we also have good roads leading to the game park. While in office, we actually marammed the road to Chepkitale. I don't know how it is right now, but we need to open up the lower side, which is Kapsakwany, to the game park. We want to make sure that those roads are passable. Once the roads are passable, then we can also try to capture some of these tourists, local tourists that want to go to the mountain. Yes, it's true, Trans Nzoia has done a fairly good job, but it's not too late. I think we can manage to do it, and what I was thinking is Kakamega is trying to fence Malava Forest. We find out where they're getting money. We also try to fence the forest up in Mount Elgon, because we need to do that. We need to protect that water tower, and we need to protect the forest so that we can now use the forest to bring in revenue.
Thank you. As we are winding up, Engineer, in our new standing orders now we have a provision that you as a CCM you'll be appearing here to answer questions from the honorable members during the question hour. You'll come in, you'll be given the slot, you sit somewhere, and you answer questions from us. If summoned or invited, will be appearing.
Yes, I'll appear anytime that I'm summoned. And maybe some answers might not be good, but I will bring whatever I have when I'm summoned. Thank you.
It's okay. I think to that extent we'll be asked that you give us your closing remarks. We release you as your fate lies in our hands. Your closing remarks, please. I want to thank the honorable members, the chair,
for giving me this opportunity to come and share with you my experience, but to also share with you my vision. I know that my paperwork might not have been the best. I want to say I'm sorry. Sometimes this hand, you want it to write one thing and it writes something else. So I'm sorry about that. I promise that if given this opportunity, I'll not let down the people of Bungoma. I'll not let down this house. I'll not let down my governor. And in 5 years, I think you'll be happy with our performance as a ministry or as several departments. I know what it takes. The only thing that is lacking in that equation is money. I want to look for ways that we can get money other than relying on the county budgets. I know they are tight, but I know there are friends out there who want to see our environments change. So when you see me in Nairobi talking to myself on a street, I'll be wondering, where do we get money to solve our
Why
problems?
not in Bungoma Street?
Because the investors most probably might be coming from that far.
Not in Bungoma.
I don't want to say no.
So we wish you well. Go well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to carry your ID and your documentations, please. Quickly. Karo, you pick the questions, mwele nasi hizi pia samani hizi. Hizi pia zinaletwa hizi. Sasa hizi faili tunachukua. Nini faili hiyo ndio haina shida. Nimeshachukua tayari. Mtafanya haraka wa secretariat, you have to move quickly. Eh?